times about the way that your bipolar condition has affected the way that you are able to work and things like that. Can you share some of your experiences as an employer and an employee who also experiences disability, and give some advice as to how people should be dealing with this?
As an employer, I always believed that the greatest assets in an organization are people. And 80% of the issues that a leader has in an organization are people. And a leader who is just a general without the people will not do much. So for me, prior to understanding myself and my mental health issues, people were always high on my agenda, and HR managers used to report directly to me because I wanted to make sure that as an organization we have values, which I associate values to the organizational conscience, so to speak, that we adhere to. So I've always made it a point that I used to tell HR, as I subsequently did on mental health, that there are problems with people, and if you're running an organization of 400 people or 1,800 people, you're going to have all sorts of problems, drugs, you mentioned it, you have it. We are there to support. Many a times I went myself with the parent and the employee to set or approach. Many a times I invited them to my home. I always made time because I always believed, and I believed this because it was inculcated in me by my previous boss, and I got a lot of my modus operandi from him, that you need to be there for your people in the hard times, because you can't expect them to give you back when you need them in the hard times. So that was always, irrespective of mental health or not mental health, that was always my creed, and continues to be today. When I do management consulting or when I sit on these non-executive boards, I always kind of bore people, so to speak, that our focus has to be people. Technology, processes, or those you can solve, but you can't solve them if the people are not there. So when it came to the mental health issue, as I mentioned earlier, I wasn't aware of my own behavior and how that behavior was affecting everybody else. So being told in a very blunt way, and that also is the kind of situation of relationships I have, because my PA, it's not easy to go to your boss and tell him, sit down, I'm going to tell you this whether you like it or you don't. To reflect the kind of relationship that I always tried to imbue in organizations that I led. So once I realized that I am a problem, then that problem, I needed to resolve that problem. Whichever way that we can make an organization tick. Right, as well as possible. So, I would say this, I went, at that time in 2000 we had the internet, so I started learning on what bipolar means. I started looking up on research papers, scientific papers, case studies, what other organizations do, and being the CEO or executive chairman or whatever I was, and being with a mental health condition myself, I could make a difference because I understood the issue. Now, that may not be the case with other leaders. Okay? It's one thing living with your goblin, so to speak. It's another thing trying to understand that the goblin might be there and how you handle that goblin with your employee. So I don't understand mental health, but I think I can write a PhD on bipolar too, because I have studied it very well. So I imparted those lessons in every organization that I've been and in organizations that I consult. As an employee, I was always moody. I was always moody. I was fast-tracked when I was very young. Looking back, I don't think I would not. I would wish my life went completely different because when you're fast-tracked, when you're very young, there are choices that you have to make. And I paid a high price, and I am sure that the intensity of the bipolar was the result of the fact that I was fast-tracked. I think if I had much less accelerated pathway, probably the intensity of the bipolar would have been less because I was still, I still had what I had, but in my mind, looking back now, I think the fact that at 27 I was a director when my peers were 50 years old, I used to be the youngest in the room by far. And that brought a lot of pressure because at the time, I used to work with government, so you get promoted by seniority, and in '94 the government wanted to break that seniority principle. So at that point, around a small number of people, I was one of them. I don't know, 26 or 27 years old, and I was placed to lead government's consultancy arm. My own staff were 50 years old. And so you go into this meeting, you don't know what hit you. So there was a lot of pressure, and that affected me, and affected my mental health. I never opened up until, as I mentioned, in '95 I had a major outage. And at that point in time, I opened up to my boss, who I still meet to this day, and is like a proxy father to me. And the fact that he just hugged me, that was a game changer. And today, well, after that, I always told any person I worked with, including prime ministers, that I'm bipolar. This is what you're going to get if you're going to use my services. You're going to get a bipolar person with the good and the bad that goes with it.